everyone, and welcome back to another episode of What the Forensics. And Happy New Year! I know our last one technically was in the new year, but we weren't quite sure when it would be posted. So here's a formal Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026. As all the other years we've been with you, I'm joined here by Journey and Rebecca, or with Journey and Rebecca. And for this episode, Journey's going to be telling us about the case of the Idaho 4 murders, which from my understanding is relatively recent because I do recall seeing it on the news, and I think they just made a documentary about it or something, but I haven't really delved into it, so I am looking forward to hearing more about this case. And general housekeeping, as always, please leave us a review or comments if you really wish to. We'd love to read them. It really does help gauge where we're going with the podcast and kind of topics that you guys may be interested in covering. You can like, subscribe, and follow wherever you can. This helps us grow and reach more people. And we just want to remind everyone that we are learning alongside you guys. We do try our best to research, but we are limited in the kind of sources that we have. So we are actively learning. We do hope you enjoy learning with us, and where we can, we'll kind of update you as we learn new things as well. With all that out of the way, surprisingly, there isn't much of a listener's discretion advised, but given this is a kind of forensics true crime podcast, there will be discussions of murder. So just keep that in mind. But if you're here, you're probably expecting that. But with all that said, Journey, would you care to kind of tell us a bit about the Idaho 4?
Yeah, you're right. This is super recent. It happened in 2022.
Okay.
And he was sentenced in July of 2025. So it is
okay.
super recent. Yeah.
I hadn't heard anything about his sentencing, just the actual like crime itself. I remember seeing in social media.
Yeah, it's definitely a case that has scared me more than other ones because it appears so random.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like I still don't know why these 4 people were targeted. And it's just really unsettling because you often hear about crimes where like, oh, there's a link between the killer and the victims, like it was targeted, and this one they said it was targeted, but no one is telling why.
Even
Which
after
is so
the
scary.
sentencing too?
They're still like releasing
Or the trial, I guess.
like sealed documents and stuff because they had a bunch of it sealed for the case, and there was like gag orders and stuff, so no one could really talk about it. And even the documentary or like limited docuseries or whatever on Prime Video, it's called One Night in Idaho. It's really well done, but they do mention at the beginning of each episode, like there's a gag order. Like we didn't talk to police officers because we couldn't kind of deal. But you do get to hear from friends of these 4 about what happened who were there kind of when it all went down. So yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about the victims first because they are people first. They are not just victims. So I'll kind of introduce you to them all. The first person I'd like to talk about is Madison Mogen. She was born May 25th, 2001. So she was 21 when she was killed. She was a strong, loving, smart, genuine, sassy, protective, outgoing, happy, thoughtful, amazing person who cared about others and loved to learn. All of these words describing her were from people talking about her either in the documentary or in news articles. Like these are from her closest friends and family, which I think is really special. Maddie was set to graduate with a degree in marketing in the spring of 2023 from the University of Idaho. She was a member of the Pi Beta Phi sorority with Xana Kernodle and worked at the Mad Greek restaurant in downtown Moscow. She grew up in Coeur d'Alene and had plans to move to Boise, Idaho after graduating. This case also takes place in Moscow, Idaho, which I didn't know was a place, and I kind of think that's fun. So the second person I'd like to talk about is Kaylee Gonsalves, and Kaylee is very funny. She's a prankster. She was very hardworking and had a very positive attitude. She was born June 8th, 2001, and was 21 when she was killed. Kaylee was in her last year of a general studies major and was a member of the Alpha Phi sorority. She already had a job lined up for after graduation and was moving to Texas for it. Her and Maddie grew up together in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and had been attached at the hip since they were in 6th grade. And so they actually chose to go to University of Idaho together. They were thought of as kind of the moms of their group because they were 21 and everyone else was 19 or 20. And they lived at 1122 King Road with Xana, Dylan, and Bethany. Xana Kernodle was born July 5th, 2002, and was 20 years old when she was killed. She was a very energetic, positive, hardworking, nice, genuine, had some fight in her, and was a state champion gymnast. She was born in Avondale, Arizona, and moved to Moscow, Idaho to attend the University of Idaho to study marketing as well. She was also a member of the Pi Beta Phi sorority with Maddie. She was actually in a relationship with Ethan, and they started out as friends, and then everyone kind of realized that they liked each other, and then they realized that they liked each other, so they became like this just amazing couple. Everyone described them as fun in the life of the party, and they suited each other very well. Ethan Chapin was born on October 29th, 2002. He was actually a triplet, so he has a brother and a sister, and was only 20 years old when he was killed. Ethan was a very social person. He was easygoing, easy to talk to, goofy, and very likable. He was a leader. He enjoyed living life and was very close with his siblings. He moved from Conway, Washington to Moscow, Idaho to attend the University of Idaho and study sports management. And he was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity with his brother Hunter. And actually, all three of them, like him and his brother and sister, went to the University of Idaho, which his parents in the documentary they said that's just super lucky. Like, how rare is it to have siblings that were this close and then choose to go to university together? So they have a very good relationship, the three of them. He also had a really good relationship with Xana, like I've already mentioned, and was more often than not at her house. So Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana lived at 1122 King Road with two other roommates, Dylan and Bethany. Ethan lived at a frat house close by, but spent most of his time at Xana's house. So I have pictures of the house on the slide here, and you can see there's a first, second, third floor. And I kind of just want to give you a layout because the crime happened in this house, and so it's very important to kind of figure out where it took place, in my opinion.
Did they have access to all three floors, or were they
Yes.
like separate apartment? No. Okay.
No, they had access to the whole house.
Okay.
Yeah. And so on the first floor was Bethany's room, a spare room, a bathroom, and a closet. And so the door from the outside into the first floor had a code lock on it, so anyone who knew the code could enter, and it was never deadbolted. You go up the stairs to the second floor, brings you into the living room. Xana's room is past the bathroom down a hallway, and Dylan's room is beside the stairs going up and across from the kitchen. And in the kitchen, there's a sliding glass door that opens to their backyard. So it is level. It's kind of built into a hill, and each level just kind of goes up but stays level with the ground in some weird way. Dylan mentions that the glass door was rarely locked because Moscow was generally a very safe place to live. Like, I think the last time they had a murder in Moscow was 2015 or something. So generally a very safe place to live. On the third floor, Kaylee's room was to the left at the top of the stairs, and there was a glass sliding door to a balcony in her room. And then to the right of the stairs was a bathroom and Maddie's room. And this balcony was off, like it was like a deck. It wasn't just right out onto the ground. So that's kind of their house. The morning of November 12th, 2022 started like a regular Saturday morning. The house at 1122 King Road was slow to wake up as they had a party there the night before. Once they woke up, the girls went to get coffee and more alcohol since there was a game that day, so they were preparing to celebrate this game day because college football is huge in the States. Their plans for the day included pre-gaming and napping before partying more that night. The pregame started around 3 p.m., and Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana were there. I believe they then came home to nap and kind of get ready to go out later that night. Dylan, Ethan, Xana, and Bethany went to the Sigma Chi fraternity party, and Kaylee and Maddie went out to the Corner Club, which was like a local club, since they were the only people legal in the house.
Right.
Dylan and a friend left the frat party and returned to the house between 1:15 and 1:30 a.m. And when they got home, Dylan made popcorn and they started watching Vampire Diaries in the living room. And roughly 20 minutes later, Bethany also returned home and joined the watch party on the couch. At some point, the friend who had come home with Dylan had left and walked home, and Dylan fell asleep on the couch. Bethany had spent the evening with Xana and Ethan at the Sigma Chi party and said Ethan and Xana returned home around 1:45 a.m. So I don't know if they kind of came home with Bethany or if it was a little bit of a staggered arrival. And I think they went straight to Xana's room because no one else other than Bethany like knew they were home, as far as I know. And then around 2:30ish, Dylan was woken up by Kaylee and Maddie getting home. And Dylan, Bethany, Kaylee, and Maddie kind of took a video talking about this grub truck food that they had brought home. And this grub truck is just a food truck that it's just a food truck. It drives around the town, and it's the only like restaurant or food place open after midnight in their town. So it's very popular with all the university students. Dylan went to bed around 3:13 a.m. and everyone else was still in the living room, but was asleep or in bed by 4 a.m., according to Bethany. Around 4 a.m., Dylan was woken up by what she described as Kaylee playing with her dog Murphy upstairs. And a little while later, she heard who she thought was Kaylee saying something along the lines of, "There's someone here," in kind of a frantic voice. And it is possible that Xana could have been the person who said that as well. She wasn't 100% sure on who it was. And then at 4 a.m., Xana received a DoorDash order, and phone data showed that she was on TikTok at 4:12 a.m., so she was also up at this time. Dylan peeked her head out of her door and didn't see anything after hearing like all of this commotion, so she closed the door again and went back to bed. A little while later, she opened her door again when she heard someone crying. She also heard a male voice say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." She knew the voice wasn't Ethan's, but couldn't tell who was crying. She thought it was Kaylee, but then after talking to police, she thought it might have been Xana. At approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera at 1112 King Road, so their neighbor, picked up a distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper, followed by a thud, and then a dog barking.
Oh.
And this camera was less than 50 feet from the west wall of Xana's bedroom.
Oh.
Yeah, so not great. At some point in the night, Dylan heard someone walking up the stairs and Murphy barking. However, due to her history with very vivid, lucid dreams and the amount of alcohol she had consumed that night, she wasn't sure whether or not she made this all up or if she actually heard it.
That would be so hard. That would be so
Right?
difficult. And after the fact, too, to kind of know what happens and living with that, I don't know.
Yeah. She's gotten a lot of flack for not being able to remember it. A lot of people have been like hating on her, like, you did it, you knew what was happening and you did nothing, like, why didn't you call the police sooner, like, why didn't you do something? And it's like, well, she didn't know it was real. Like, it's 4 a.m. after drinking all day.
Yeah.
Like, you have to give her some grace.
You're not in your right mind. Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. And like, she feels terrible about this. Like, she has to go on living that's what she heard.
Yeah. People put a lot of weight into memory as well, and it's been proven time and time again to not be as reliable as you'd like it to be.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's like amazing for her to say, I don't know if this is what I heard. Like, this is what I heard, but this has happened in the past, so I can't say for certain, but here's the information still. Kind of giving that caveat. Sorry.
No, that's okay. She was very like forthcoming about it. Like, she was telling officers, like, I frequently have dreams of being kidnapped, but because I know they're dreams, I kind of just let it play out because I can't stop it. Mm-hmm. So later on, she sees someone in the house and she's like, that's not unusual for me to see because I'm often having lucid, vivid dreams about someone kidnapping me, which is so scary.
That's terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dylan opened her door a third time. This is when she saw someone dressed in all black wearing a ski mask. So the ski mask is like a balaclava thing, but it's open around the eyes. It's not one of the ones where it's the eyes and the mouth that are open.
Oh, okay.
It's just like a circle around the eyes that's open. And holding an item that she thought was a small handheld vacuum, which she admits didn't make sense to her because she had never seen a small handheld vacuum to her, but that was what she first thought of when she saw it.
Okay.
She also says her vision was blurry at the time, like it's dark.
Yeah.
That's just the connection she made. She saw him walking out the sliding glass door, leaving it partially open. She said that he looked at her before walking out the door, but she's not certain how much of her he saw. And she still wasn't sure if this was real or if she was dreaming. So she texted Bethany around 4:23 a.m. saying she saw a masked person in their house. Bethany responded 2 minutes later telling her to come down to her room, which she did. And she had been calling and texting, maybe not calling, but definitely messaging Kaylee and Maddie and Xana saying, like, what's going on? Like, are you guys hearing this? Like, but no responses, but she's like, okay, they're asleep. Like, they didn't hear it or something.
And so, sorry, this is on the second floor where the sliding door is. That was never locked. Okay.
Yes. Dylan does say that she's the person in charge of locking it. She doesn't remember if she locked it that night. They often leave it unlocked because who's going to break in?
Safe, yeah.
Yeah. When she was running downstairs, she saw Xana laying on her back on the floor in her underwear, but thought she was just passed out drunk. She also, in the interview with the police officers, they mentioned that it wasn't weird that Xana was in her underwear. Like, she was very comfortable with the girls, like, often. Like, that wasn't something. So nothing about seeing her laying on the floor passed out was weird to her.
Right.
She
just,
didn't
again, a day full of drinking, and if you sleep in your underwear, then maybe you just fell asleep on the ground. Kind of thing.
And it's dark. Everyone been partying, like, whatever. Yeah. She hadn't seen Ethan and wasn't sure if he'd even come back to their house at this point. Even when she got to Bethany's room, she was trying to figure out what was real and what wasn't, but at no point did she think about her roommates being murdered. Bethany also hadn't heard anything, so that really helped her convince that it wasn't real. Mm-hmm. Because she's like, well, you would have heard this too. Like, it was super loud, whatever. Phone data shows that she had called and texted everyone in the house, with only Bethany responding at some point between 4 and 4:27 a.m. So for about half an hour, she'd been messaging everyone.
Okay.
Her and Bethany were able to fall asleep in Bethany's room, and Dylan woke up around 10:30 a.m. and messaged Maddie to see if she was awake. Then she messaged Kaylee around 11:30 a.m., but neither message was read. They were texting through Snapchat, so she could tell when the messages were read.
Right.
Another thing that they got a lot of flack for was not calling the police early and, like, waiting until noon, but they were up until 4 a.m. in the morning. Like, they slept in.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you didn't walk in to see it, you wouldn't have known what would happen. And so you're just carrying on your morning as per usual, like your usual routine, I guess.
Yeah, and if you're up until 4 a.m., you're probably going to sleep in until at least noon.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dylan was asleep on the couch, correct?
Yeah, she was asleep on the couch when Kaylee and Maddie came home, but then she moved to her bedroom.
Right. Okay, right.
After. So Bethany and Dylan were super freaked out now, and they called their friends Emily and Josie, who lived together across the road. Dylan said that something weird happened last night and asked if they could come over with Emily's boyfriend, Hunter, not Ethan's brother, a different Hunter.
Gotcha.
They agreed to come over. Emily and Josie kind of took their time because they were like, Moscow's so safe. Nothing could have happened. Like, is something weird? Like, it's done. Everyone's safe. Nothing happened kind of deal.
Yeah.
Hunter got there before them and searched the house. When he came back downstairs, he told Dylan to call 911 and tell them there was an unconscious person at the house. He also convinced everyone to wait outside. Emily and Josie had arrived by this point, and Dylan was so distraught calling 911 that Josie ended up finishing the call. When officers entered the house, they found Xana and Ethan dead on Xana's floor, or in Xana's bedroom, sorry. Maddie and Kaylee were found deceased in Maddie's room. They all had multiple stab wounds. The sliding glass door was found open, and there were footprints in the melting snow leading to and from the house.
That's interesting that the sliding door was left open and not noticed.
Well, Dylan did kind of see him, like, she didn't see him close it all the way. Yeah. But they didn't go upstairs ever.
Oh, because she had gone downstairs to Bethany's.
Yeah, to Bethany's room, and then there was a door outside and, like, on the first floor, so they didn't need to go upstairs. They didn't leave Bethany's room until Hunter got there.
Right, okay.
And then they sent him upstairs. So at this point, the police started putting up crime scene tape and contacted the school to put out a vandal alert, which is just an alert to all the university students, because I think their team name is the Vandals or something.
Okay.
So every student got a notification on their phone talking about a homicide at 1122 King Road. And it wasn't really until this point that they realized that something really bad had actually happened and that their friends had most likely died. Like, they just thought
Just
they
in
were
the state of shock.
unconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at this point, they were also really only thinking about Ethan and Xana because she had seen Xana like laying on the floor. And Maddie's boyfriend was among this like growing crowd of people outside the house. So he called Maddie's mom and told her that there was a homicide at Xana's house and they think Xana is dead. So Maddie's mom and stepdad immediately left their house and came to Moscow to think that they could take Maddie and Kaylee out for lunch and kind of comfort them after this horrific ideal. And Ethan's brother Hunter was also with this group of people, and he was told that Ethan was, quote, no longer here, which he's like, okay, go get him. Like, where is he? They meant it took him a minute to realize that they meant that Ethan was dead.
That's not great wording, but I can understand the shock of even saying that so-and-so is dead.
Yeah, and he wasn't notified by the police. Like, the police hadn't talked to the students at this point yet. And so he called his sister Maisie and told her to come over as soon as possible, and then called their parents to tell them that Ethan and Xana were dead. And then another vandal alert was sent out saying, quote, Moscow police continues to investigate the death of 4 people on campus. They indicate there is no ongoing threat, end quote. So this is the first kind of communication other than the initial, like there had been a homicide. So now that's confirmed that there are 4 people in the house dead. And so they're kind of all freaking out. Josie confronted an officer and was like, hey, what the heck? Like, what does this mean? And he was like, oh my gosh, he was shocked that that information was being shared like that.
Yeah, I was going to say that seems very strange to have that going out to every student on campus. Like, without any kind of real investigation, without really understanding the circumstances of the event yet, they're throwing this information out to say, these people are dead, da-da-da-da.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was like the police had told the school, not thinking that the school would then tell everyone.
Blast it out to everyone, right?
Yeah. So he did confirm that all 4 people inside were dead, which was very heartbreaking. And all of the students kind of gathered around were also taken to the police station for questioning at some point, not as suspects, just to get information about last whereabouts and stuff. And by this time, some parents had arrived and were informed by police that their children had been killed, but not much more was known. And then at 5 p.m., a search warrant was signed by a judge, allowing the officers to process the crime scene. I'm not going to go super in depth with what the officers found because it's pretty sad. You can read about it in our sources. There's information about this case from police was very easy to find on this case. It was almost like it was very shocking. And
it's interesting that there's like seemingly, as you've talked about at the beginning, publication bans regarding this, and yet the police or whomever's in charge of that is just so freely giving the detail of information of the crime scene and crime out.
Yeah, and I don't know if because he's been sentenced and the case is now over, essentially, that everything is allowed to be released. And like it was, like you can go on the state of Idaho website or whatever and kind of search it up, and there was like tons of information. Like there was a 2,000-page document of like DNA evidence, the emails back and forth talking about the DNA evidence, like the requests for it, the chains of custody, like so much information. And I did not read it. I scrolled through.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of information.
I was say 2,000 pages of it's probably a lot of technical jargon too. You find through a lot of these reports, rightfully so, because they're professionals in the field, but it's not really meant for the everyday person to read and understand.
And this document specifically wasn't organized in any sort of way. Like there was like printed out copies of like an email photocopied to put in there kind of deal.
Oh.
So it was quite odd. However, what I will say about the crime scene is that Xana was found lying on the floor near the center of the room. Ethan was found laying on the bed, partially covered by blankets. Both were covered in blood and stab wounds. Kaylee and Maddie were found in Maddie's bed, covered by her comforter with a pool of blood in the center of it. And so it's most likely that they were just all killed in their sleep. A little bit comes out later that Xana did try to fight him off.
Yeah, if she's the only one out of the bed, then it's kind of makes sense in that regard, or at least it seems like that.
Yeah. The funeral home and coroner arrived at 8:15 p.m. to remove the bodies. And some notable evidence that was found includes a tan-colored leather sheath, partially covered by the comforter found near Maddie's hip, and a bloody footprint with a diamond pattern similar to Van's, found outside Dylan's room, which kind of helps corroborate her memory of the event. And based on the processing of the crime scene and evidence collected, this is what the investigators believed happened. So they think the killer parked behind their house and entered through the sliding glass door. He walked through the kitchen, up the stairs, saw Kaylee's room was empty to the left of him, so he went to Maddie's room, where he found Maddie and Kaylee asleep in her bed. He then murdered both of them in their bed. He then went back down the stairs, through the living room to Xana's room. Evidence suggests that Xana was attacked just inside her bedroom door. She fought him before being killed. Ethan was still asleep at the time and was murdered in Xana's bed. Then the killer left her bedroom, walked back down the hallway through the living room, kitchen, and exited through the sliding glass door, leaving it partially open. He then walked back to his vehicle and drove away from the area. It is estimated that this only took between 2 to 4 minutes, sometime between 4:07 a.m. and 4:20 a.m.
Wow.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Which is crazy. And that's the officers recreating it. So obviously I would imagine there's some, I can't believe that it took that little time to kill 4 people.
And someone was on TikTok at 4:15 a.m. Was that one of the victims, or was it?
Yeah, that was Xana. She was on TikTok at 4:12 a.m. and she, I believe, had gone downstairs to get her DoorDash order at 4.
Oh, interesting.
So she was up. And we never hear about this DoorDash order other than she got it.
She got it, yeah. Huh.
But yes, on November 17th or 18th, the autopsy reports were released and the cause of death was announced as stabbing. On November 20th, the police held a second press conference to explicitly state who they believed were not involved with the case, since the survivors and many other students were being mercilessly harassed by online sleuths.
Jesus.
Which, in the documentary, it talks about how harmful the online sleuth community was. A lot of YouTubers and podcasters and content creators were swarming Moscow, trying to solve this case before the police were. And they were also looking at videos and being oh, so-and-so did it, and then sending them death threats. It was just crazy the amount of bullying that they received.
It's like a witch hunt, really.
Yeah.
It really was, yeah.
The exact
they have to understand that the police have evidence they have not released to the public. Yeah. So a podcaster is not going to solve a murder before the police. I mean, unless it's an unsolved thing or something, but this was a brand new case.
Yeah, 100%.
The opposite of kind of what you want to see, because obviously internet sleuths can be beneficial, and we see that with Luca Magnotta and groups like that, but it only goes so far. You can't take it further than necessary and bring in, I don't know, death threat. You can't, I don't know. Yeah. That's just crazy to me. I can't wrap my head around it, because these students are grieving. They're trying to figure it out themselves. They're probably still in a state of shock, and folks are coming in doing the police's job. But poorly. Yeah. And they're more poorly than may have already been done.
And a lot of people still think that it was one of the students. There was one guy, he's you Google my name, and it comes out that I killed these girls. I didn't kill these girls. How is that going to affect, I graduate? how is that going to affect my job search? Like, as soon as they Google me, like, that's the first thing that comes up. And even Hunter, the person who found the bodies initially, he was getting, like, everyone thought he did it.
Right.
For whatever reason. And he's like, I had to see, like, I'm the only person other than the police who saw what actually happened to them.
Yeah.
And now I have to deal with the trauma of you guys, like, sending me death threats and harassing me for something that I didn't do.
It's so fascinating how quick people are to just be so cutthroat and internet bullies and give someone a death threat for information they don't know, or they don't care to find out, or they don't take the time to, like, mindfully look into things. They just see, oh, I saw this, okay, fuck you, you're dead now, or like, go kill yourself kind of thing.
No, I agree. Like, and even like the police were getting a lot of flack because they hadn't solved it yet. And I was like, it's been a week. Like, for, like, they're doing the best they can. And even, like, it wasn't until that I had read through some of the police documents that I was like, oh, they had more information than a lot of people realized.
Yeah. Well, that, like, typically is how it goes, how, like, investigations go, is they're not going to lay everything out on the table, which I think people saying that, I could kind of maybe see the confusion in the sense of they were so quick at the start for those text or email alerts to have gone out that people maybe thought that that's how quick things should have evolved in the case.
Yeah.
And that they would get updates as police found them. But no, they keep that information close to them. Like, that's a case that they're building.
Exactly, yeah. Like, most often you don't find out about it until the trial. And if there's a publication ban on the trial, you never find out the amount of information they had on it. But yeah, so that was really heartbreaking. The police also announced that they believed it was a targeted attack, but they weren't at liberty to release why they thought that. In the press conference, they were like, you have to trust us. Like, trust that we know more than we can tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is good. On December 7th, police announced they were looking for a 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra. There's some stuff with that I don't know if it was people just being like, because someone came across the killer's car, but because it was a 2015 Hyundai Elantra instead of a 2013, they were like, no, it wasn't him. So they completely disregarded him. I don't know if they used that as an excuse for not knowing that it was him who did it to cover their own back, or if that's actually something that happened, because I saw another thing that said that they released a 2011 to 2016, like they changed the dates.
Oh.
I don't know, because it's that year, those years look so similar.
Yeah, I'm the least car savvy person, so if someone was to tell me what year, it would just go over my head. I could like maybe put the make and model, but yeah, the year is asking a lot.
Exactly, unless it's like super obvious. But anyway, they were asking for keeping their eyes out, checking your video cameras, like whatever. Then on December 29th, the parents of the victims received a phone call late at night from the police telling them that they had arrested someone and to not tell anyone. Then on December 30th, the police held another press conference and announced that they had made an arrest. They had arrested 28-year-old Brian Kohberger at his parents' house in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. He was extradited from Pennsylvania to Idaho on January 4th, 2023.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Brian Kohberger was a PhD criminology student at Washington State University in Pullman, Washington, which is about a 15-minute drive from Moscow. He graduated with his master's in forensic psych or criminal justice from DeSales University in Pennsylvania in the summer of 2022. Police had gotten quite a few tips about Brian and his conduct at WSU this past semester and learned that he owned a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra. And I believe through investigative genetic genealogy, they were able to narrow it down to someone from his family. So there was DNA found on the knife sheath on the button snap part. And so they were able to take that DNA, and I think they uploaded it into some sort of genetic genealogy website. And it brought up the Kohberger name as well. So the police started surveying his parents' house and collected some of their garbage. They were then able to compare the DNA of his father's to the DNA found at the crime scene to learn that it was Brian Kohberger who killed Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. A little bit about Kohberger. He had complaints about his rude and belittling behavior toward women and his unprofessional, rude interactions toward students and professors. These complaints resulted in a mandatory training class for all graduate students regarding behavior expectations because he was also a TA for a professor.
Ooh,
Yeah.
not ideal.
Not ideal. A total of 9 complaints have been filed against him between August and December 2022, and he was fired from being a TA.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like
He
that's
also
hard to do. You just,
yeah.
well, okay. As someone
Yeah.
who was a TA, you don't have to, I mean, not a PhD candidate, student TA, mind you, first year, second year TA, but like, you just, I don't know. Okay. Interesting.
And it wasn't like he was bad at being a TA in terms of like the job that they have to fulfill. It
Yeah.
was that he was so
Behavioral.
rude and
Yeah.
just awful. He also had a reputation of only criticizing, talking back, and being late to his only female professor's classes. He has been described as socially awkward, lonely, creepy, often stares intensely at people, uptight, serious, wanting to come across as intelligent, homophobic, ableist, xenophobic, misogynistic, incel, and pretentious.
He sounds like a shitty guy.
Very shitty guy.
Is this coming from like folks in his life? Like who's just wow.
Yeah. Some came from like the tips of people who knew him. Some came from people that he knew at DeSales University who he worked closely with.
Right.
Incel was thrown around a lot about him. He does have autism. He was diagnosed with ASD.
But like that doesn't excuse murder and being a piece of shit.
Exactly. In the trial, there was like a motion or whatever to not be able to use the words sociopath or psychopath because of the way that he acted in court, because they did know that he was going to not react as someone without autism would. So they didn't want that to label him or whatever. And that motion was passed. And I find that very interesting.
Yeah.
It's hard to have grace for someone who kills 4 people.
Yeah, I could see the misdiagnosis isn't the right word, but placing a label on a behavior that isn't actually accurate, which then kind of sets a poor example of, you know, people who may have sociopathic tendencies or who may have psychopathic tendencies. Like just because
and maybe
he has ASD, that doesn't align with traits you see with psychopathy and whatnot.
Yes, I agree. Before the homicides, he was very clean-shaven and neatly dressed, and after he was disheveled with facial hair. He also didn't participate in discussions about the homicides when they were discussed in his classes, whereas normally he was quite vocal during discussion of crimes. And then when confronted with some of the complaints against him, he took no responsibility and simply said that his comments had been misunderstood. There's also a picture I do want to show you guys. So he took that photo 6 hours after killing them.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah.
That's alarming.
Yep.
Ooh. Yeah. He does give, and now this is me just judging a book by its cover and adjectives and descriptors, but he does give incel vibes.
American Psycho vibes too.
Yeah,
that's his favorite movie.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, checks out.
Yeah. Yeah, so he did take that picture after killing them, which is not a good look for him. He also has the scariest eyes I've ever seen him. Like in a person. Like if you just Google a picture of him, like it haunts me. It's very scary.
They just don't really fit his face, if that makes sense. Like,
okay, yeah.
The spacing between his forehead and his cheeks and the eye alignment seems just like the ratio is a bit unsettling in my brain.
Right.
But yeah, no, I can't also see the eyes in detail in this photo, so he could just very well be like staring at your soul.
Yeah, and this photo was used as evidence in the case because Dylan said that the one defining feature she remembered from the killer or the person running out of their house was that he had bushy eyebrows. So they did use this photo because it was taken like the day after to kind of show that he had bushy eyebrows in that. So that is something that if he had changed, they would know, okay, on the day of, this is what he looked like.
Yeah. Wow. That's not the smartest move, but hey, to each their own.
Yeah. And I don't know. We could speculate on why he took that photo for hours, I imagine.
Yeah.
I have some evidence that links him to the murders, and this includes records from an Amazon account registered to his name and email that show a purchase of a K-bar or Ka-bar knife and sheath that was made from the account approximately 8 months prior to the homicides, and it was shipped to a Brian Koberger at his family's house in Pennsylvania. On January 10th, 2022, he bought a black balaclava from Dick's Sporting Goods in Pittsburgh, which is that ski mask that he was seen in. On November 18th, 2022, he changed his title and vehicle registration from Pennsylvania to Washington. His previous registration was set to expire at the end of November, but it was also convenient because now his car no longer matches the one they have video footage of because it has a different license plate, and Idaho.
Oh, right, because it was
Pennsylvania and Washington have different requirements of whether or not you need to have a front license plate.
Interesting.
Yeah. However, the car was registered under his previous license plate through the school, so they were able to prove it through that or whatever. Interestingly and weirdly, the person he dealt with at the DMV place added him to their Christmas card list after this interaction because he was such a nice and charming person. And that I know is fact because it came from police documents.
That's so bizarre. How many
Imagine
people does this DMV
card?
man have on his Christmas list?
Yeah.
Huh.
And
getting a card from the DMV, interesting.
And I don't know if it was like a personal card from this person who he dealt with or if it was from like the DMV. I think my understanding was like this person who works at the DMV added them to his personal Christmas card list.
Gotcha. I see. Huh.
Which is a wild thing to do after meeting a person one time.
At work, yeah. Huh.
Yeah. His car was videoed driving past the King Road house 4 times before parking it around 4:04 a.m. It was then seen leaving the area at a high rate of speed at 4:20 a.m. On December 23rd, investigators obtained a search warrant for his phone records. They learned that at 2:42 a.m., his phone was connected to towers close to his house, and then at 2:47 a.m., he was connected to towers southeast of his house, thereby indicating that he had left his house. Also, at 2:47 a.m., his phone stopped reporting to the network in a way similar to it being turned off, put in airplane mode, or having no service. His phone does not report to the network until 4:48 a.m., where it shows a location of Highway 95 south of Moscow near Blaine. Between 4:50 and 5:26 a.m., it shows he moved south on Highway 95 to Genesee, then traveled west to Uniontown, and then north back to Pullman, Washington. At around 5:30 a.m., it shows he is traveling back to his house. It also shows that he left his house around 9 a.m., drove to Moscow again, specifically the King Road residence, around 9:12 and 9:21 a.m. He then traveled back to his house and arrived around 9:32 a.m. So
he just did another loop to go back and view it.
Yeah. And
presumably.
I think he also realized that he left the sheath there.
Oh, it was a oh shit moment. He got home, realized he's missing some critical pieces of property, and then went back to see it.
That is everyone's hypothesis.
Oh, but it wouldn't have been swarmed at that point. So they weren't awake though. No one presumably was awake at that time at the house.
Yeah, so he could have gone in and got it and left and no one would know.
Right.
But he didn't know if they were up, and now it's daylight.
Now, oh, yeah. Huh, okay.
So it's also weird the way he drove back. Instead of just going back on the highway that goes straight to Pullman, he did a whole big loop. Like, that doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
my kind of theory is he was getting rid of evidence, like getting rid of the clothes that he had worn.
Along the route?
Yeah, and the knife, because the clothes from that night and the knife have never been found, as far as the public knows.
Interesting. Okay. That's kind of hard to make a case with no murder weapon. But, I mean, I guess if there's other concrete evidence, not just circumstantial stuff, sure, whatever.
Yeah,
but
like his DNA was on the sheath that was left, and he no longer has the knife that he bought in March.
Yeah, and all of his phone pings and whatnot.
Yeah, like it's very suspicious. They also received historical records for his phone from the time his account was opened in June 2022, and it showed that he had been the phone had been in the King Road residence area on at least 12 occasions prior to November 13th, 2022. So all of these occasions, except for one, occurred in the late evening and early morning hours. So weird times to be in that area.
This is gonna show my lack of US geography knowledge, but how far away in theory was like the university he was at to the University of Idaho? He's in University of Washington, was it not?
If you scroll up 4 slides, I have a picture showing how far they were apart.
I guess I can make
this bigger.
Okay. I, for some reason, thought that they were in like full separate states.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they were 15 minutes away.
Yeah. They are like right beside each other. Because as soon as they were talking about, oh, like he's from Pullman, Washington, I was like, where is that? And I was like, it's like maybe a 15-minute drive away from them.
Wow. Yeah, so did he go to the University of Washington, though?
Yeah, Washington State University.
Washington State University. Okay, because I did University of Washington, and it shows
that's
almost
in Seattle.
5 hours. Washington State. Okay, wow. Okay, so, the states are so weird to me that, I don't know, they are in different states. Yes, but it's a border town, so that makes so much more sense. I thought they were just miles away.
Yeah, no, it does. That is what you think of when you hear 2 different states.
Like, yeah.
Oh, they're so far away. Not, oh, they're beside each other.
Yeah. Okay, that clears some things up then for me, because I was like, why is he there? So rather than, so now going back to previous, when you said just zipping back from Moscow, he's taking an hour drive rather than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's
weird. And everyone was kind of like, why? Like, what are you doing? It's 4 a.m.
Okay, that's starting to get the gears going now in my brain. Huh.
Yeah. So I think he used it to get rid of evidence. I'm sure they would have checked it and followed the whatever and didn't find anything, but you place it in a dumpster and the dumpster gets collected and it's gone forever.
Yeah. I don't assume he's throwing it out the car window and keeping on driving.
No, he was very good at criminology studies. I think he had really high marks. And so he knew how to get away with it, right? They studied how to get away with murder, so yeah. Not great. Like I said, on December 27th, Pennsylvania agents recovered trash from the Koberger residence in Albrightsville. It was sent to the Idaho State Lab for testing, and on December 28th, they reported that a DNA profile obtained from the trash and the DNA profile obtained from the sheath identified a male as not being excluded as the biological father of suspect 1. So because they took DNA from his dad and
because it was just trash. Sheath. He was living with his parents, so there's at least 3 people at this house. Trash is gathered from this house, not fully knowing who it's from. Is that the case? And then they swabbed it.
Yeah,
and then it gave the paternal.
Yeah, I don't know if he was living there or if they like knew it wasn't his or whatever, because Albrightsville, Pennsylvania is 12 hours east.
Oh, okay.
And that was where he was arrested. So I don't know if they.
Oh.
I'm not sure. I don't know if he was like home for Christmas break or something.
I'm so turned. Yeah, that would make sense. I'm so turned around with like distance and the geography of this all, but
yeah,
interesting. Okay.
But yeah, they were able to identify that it was Brian Kohberger through kind of like process of elimination. They had a ton of tips. His DNA was on it. XYZ. During the initial trial proceedings, Kohberger stayed very silent when asked to enter a plea, so a plea of not guilty was entered for him. The trial kept getting postponed due to the 51 terabytes of information and evidence they had.
Oh my God. Wow,
yep.
That's a lot.
A lot of information. Eventually, he did plead guilty to all charges on July 2nd, 2025, and his sentencing date was set for July 23rd, 2025. Because he pled guilty, they didn't need to go on with a jury trial. They just pretty much sentenced him.
Wow.
I am going to read what the judge said during sentencing. It was really well said. It goes, quote, "I share the desire expressed by others to understand the why, but upon reflection, it seems to me, and this is just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohberger relevance. We give him agency and we give him power. The need to know what is inherently not understandable makes us dependent upon the defendant to provide us with a reason. And that gives him the spotlight, the attention, and the power he appears to crave. Yet, even if I could force him to speak, which legally I cannot, how could anyone ever be assured that what he speaks is the truth? Do we really believe after all of this he's capable of speaking the truth or of giving up something of himself to help the very people whose lives he destroyed? Rather, I suspect the so-called self-serving and aggrandizing untruthful bits leaving people wanting more information, more insight, and thus enhancing even further the power he seeks to hold. Even if we could get truthful insight into his why, I suspect it would not in any way quench one's thirst for actual understanding why in the first instance, because there is no reason for these crimes that could approach anything resembling rationality. No conceivable reason could make any sense. And in the end, the more we struggle to seek explanation for the unexplainable, the more we try to extract a reason, the more power and control we give to him. In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame. Truth be told, I'm unable to come up with anything redeeming about Mr. Kohberger because his grotesque acts of evil have buried and hidden anything that might have been good or intrinsically human about him. His actions have made him the worst of the worst. Even in pleading guilty is giving nothing hinting of remorse or redemption, nothing suggesting even a recognition or understanding, let alone regret for the pain that he has caused. And therefore I will not attempt to speak about him further other than to simply sentence him so that he is forever removed from civilized society." End quote.
Damn.
It just tore him a new one. It was amazing.
Damn.
The sentencing trial is up on YouTube. And I did watch through it. Yeah. And the victim impact statements are wild.
Damn. Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, because Dylan speaks and she cries through hers. I don't actually think I made it through hers. Emily reads Bethany's statement. Kaylee's sister comes up and gives an absolutely phenomenal speech. Mm-hmm. And like just tears him apart. It is the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed. She did an amazing, amazing job. And those are the only three I watched because the rest were like parents or grandparents. And I was like, I do not have the mental capacity to listen to these parents who have lost their kids address the killer. That is heartbreaking.
Absolutely. I do not blame you there.
Yeah.
This makes me think of like Dr. Stinson, Gina, and everyone's research on victim impact statements. And, you know, like does the presence of these victim impact statements ultimately have an effect on the sentence that he's given? Because you would think that like the more you hear how the trauma has influenced folks in the victims' lives, like you kind of have sympathy or empathy over that in terms of sentencing, despite it in theory not supposed to have impact on sentencing outcomes.
Yeah. And like the judge was crying through some of them.
Wow.
Like they
I
were
honestly don't know how judges can get through anything without crying. Like the shit that they hear and see.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I don't know, like, because I was also thinking, like, have these affected the sentence he was getting? Because they would definitely change. Like, I definitely would get caught up in emotion and be like,
Oh yeah.
okay, forever, goodbye, we'll never see you again.
Yeah, I'd want to give him life just based on that alone. Screw the evidence.
Right?
You know?
And so I don't know if the judge had come into this already knowing what he was going to sentence him. And then because when he was saying the quote that I read, he was like reading it from a piece of paper kind of thing. And a lot of it looked like he was reading from notes. So I don't know if he had already decided what he was going to get. And now that I say that, part of his deal for pleading guilty was to take the death penalty off of the table, but receive a life imprisonment. So I think everyone already knew he was getting life.
Right.
That's super fair. I wouldn't expect anything less of that, to be honest.
Yeah.
So a charge that I forgot to mention was he was charged with burglary for breaking into their house. He was sentenced to 10 years fixed for burglary, 0 years indeterminate, and a fine of $50,000. 0 years indeterminate means there's no end date to this 10 years, even though he's sentenced to 10 years, doesn't mean after the 10 years he can get out for it.
Huh.
So it's like a minimum sentence sort of thing.
Yeah. It's like you're in for 10. Okay. It kind of reminded me of what happened in the Attica uprising of the one person who went in for stealing like 79 cents of gas and then was in there forever because he got lost in the system. That's kind of what it reminded me of. It was like, you're in there for 5, but we don't have a date to let you out. So you're in there forever.
Not a problem. We've got other things to worry about.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of people have gotten lost in the system like that. And some people, like Brian Kohberger, I think that's fine. He can get lost in the system. But people like who you mentioned at the Attica uprising, like obviously he was way over penalized.
Yes, 100%. And so for the first degree murders of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, he was sentenced to 4 fixed terms of life without parole, a fine of $50,000 each, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of each of the victims, and the sentences will run consecutively to one another.
I find it intriguing that there's multiple fines in this case. It would was he well off? How is he going to earn that money in jail?
I don't know.
If he doesn't have the
$250,000 to the court.
255,000, no.
250,000
to the court,
and then an extra 20,000 to the families.
To the families. Which I don't have that money.
Yeah, like where are you going to get that? You don't have a job.
You PhD candidate probably does not have that money either. I mean,
yeah, that's fair. I was going to say they stipend his pay, but you're right. If he goes to prison, that's going to just be everything he makes in prison, which will be very limited if he can get a job in there.
Yeah, and I don't understand setting a fine for that amount knowing that the person cannot pay it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just to rub dirt in the wound sort of thing. It's like, even if you do manage to get out, you still owe us all this money, but I don't know.
I know. I would love to do more research into that, because then does it fall on the family to pay that? Because that's not fair to the family either.
Yeah. And then I was going to say, kind of like if they know he can't really pay it, that's a bit unfortunate for the victims' families, because if they're like kind of anticipating $5,000 each, well, when are they going to get that money? Do they know if they're going to get that money? And is it going to be clean money? Like,
do you even want like $5,000 after your kid gets taken away? Like, yes, there's no amount of money that can ever bring them back, but that kind of feels a little bit like a slap in the face.
A little bit.
Yeah, it feels a bit laughable.
And I don't know if they had gotten other settlements before, because I did see a court document that said that I think it was Kaylee's dad who was supposed to get like $8,000 from him, but I lost that source and I can't find it anymore. And so I don't know if that was like they had asked for that and it was denied, or if that's on top of the $5,000, or if it was brought down to $5,000. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the story. I just have some extra final notes. Kaylee had stalker instances leading up to her death, but nothing proves it was Kohberger. Nothing proves that it was dangerous in any way. There's really not, like, it's tough because all the questions we have can only be answered by the people who were killed.
Yeah.
So we don't know really much about that. And I wasn't able to find any concrete information on why these 4 people were killed. There's still appears to be no real connection between Kohberger and them. There's a good chance he was stalking them, but it's still very random and scary. And no one knows why Bethany and Dylan weren't killed. Like,
yeah, like why the target of those upstairs if he didn't want to risk going down to a different floor? If he saw them, why let her go? Like, there's just a lot of questions.
yeah. It's
And then
really,
it kind of has you... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's really odd that, like, you can make eye contact with Dylan and maybe he didn't register what was happening, or was so fight or flight that it didn't cross his mind, or he was so confident in himself that he's like, they're never going to find me.
Yeah.
But
it just makes you think, too, if there was a link or it was a targeted attack, where their paths cross, like whether it be online, if it was in person, if it was in town. I mean, if they're only 15 minutes away, is it like a school rivalry thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like a local party, like did something happen at a frat party?
Especially for him to be 7 years older than them too. They're senior.
And he had only been in the area since August.
Yeah. Huh.
So,
but didn't he purchase... Wait, okay, weird, because didn't he purchase the knife in March of that year?
Yeah, when he lived in Pennsylvania, like when he was still completing his master's degree in Pennsylvania. And then he moved to Washington to do his PhD that summer.
So it seems like he had
to kill someone.
He just didn't know who at that time.
Yeah, or didn't care who.
Yeah. Huh.
And then a lot of people kind of theorize that because these were beautiful, smart, funny, charismatic women, that they're the people who most likely would have bullied him growing up, and people that he would never get. And so the incel in him kind of came out and was like,
right,
I can never
if
have
I
him
can't
for no
have
one else.
You. Yeah.
Like, that kind of thing. But and they were very present on social media.
Yeah.
And I guess that's something that we can take away from this episode is be careful what you post.
Yeah.
Don't post your location. Don't post when you've left your home. Don't post where your home is. Like,
if you share your location on Instagram, just don't, please.
Yeah.
That is such a stupid feature. People can track literally your day-to-day habits and routines that way, and it's terrifying.
Yeah. And like, I've started not posting, or I'm trying to not post when I'm on vacation or something.
Yeah.
Even though I know that my boyfriend will be home, like, because I've seen so many horror stories on Facebook where people like post that they're on vacation and then someone will go and rob their house.
Yeah.
Like little scary things like that. The girls did have some weird experiences of coming home and the doors were open or not how they left them throughout their time living there. But I don't really think that was anything connected to the case. Like, even Dylan said, like, one day we came home and our door was open, but the latch doesn't quite work all the time and it was really windy. So the wind could have just blown it open. Like, we don't really know.
Yeah, I have a firsthand experience of that exact thing happening. Like, Ben and I were living in like South End, Halifax, and we had gone somewhere on vacation. I think it was somewhere with my parents, and it was like dead of winter, and we came back and the French doors that led to the balcony were wide open. We don't know how long they were open, but even with that door locked, if you just pulled on it hard enough, both of them would just come open.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It was spooky. Or even just like coming home and not knowing that a roommate had been home, and so they started the washing, and you're like, oh my goodness, it wasn't on when I left. But
Yeah, I was
there
gonna
was
say
just like a
with
miscommunication.
4 to 6 of them in that house, like
Yeah.
there's gonna be movement and people coming and going that you're not really aware of.
Exactly. And they were definitely like a party house, and like everyone, like there was constantly people coming in and out of their house. And that's another reason
Yeah.
why Dylan didn't think it was so weird that there was a stranger in their house, because
Yeah.
they're constant like flow of people, and because
Yeah.
the doors were rarely locked and the downstairs door had a code that probably a lot of people knew, like there's just anyway. In December 28th, or on December 28th, 2023, the house at 1122 King Road was demolished, so that house no longer exists.
Oh, wow. I mean,
Um,
given what we've talked about kind of off the record with the amount of blood, that makes sense.
yeah, and it was also like the community needed it to be
Yeah.
gone. Like
Yeah.
no one would live in it. It was just a reminder of this
Yeah.
horrific thing that had happened in their previously very safe community.
Yeah.
So Koberger had posted a survey on Reddit as part of his master's thesis, I believe, asking questions about emotions and decision making from people who have committed crimes in the past. I have a screenshot that someone posted on Reddit that he posted on Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was part of a research project that sought to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision making when committing a crime.
In r/prisons. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was just looking
Are
for
they
people
letting
who had
sorry.
No,
I was just saying, are they letting prisoners on Reddit in prison?
I don't know.
I think
don't
it's
know
just
if he
like
just
a prison subreddit where you talk about
Yeah.
prisons and whatnot, but
like I
that's
guess if you
funny.
had been. Yeah. So that will be on our website and stuff. A lot of people bring this up in discussions about him because they think it was his way of studying how to create a perfect crime. And a lot of the questions he asks are very weird and telling. And in Kaylee's sister's victim impact statement, like she reads him questions. She like asked him questions that he was asking other people to kind of just be like, fuck you, essentially.
Wow.
He also studied criminology, like I said, for almost a decade. So he knew how to get away with murder. And I do believe that if he hadn't forgotten his sheath, he could have gotten away with it. And I definitely think he would have gone on to become a serial killer, especially once like the ego boost of getting away with it caught up to him.
Yeah. Big old rookie mistake.
Yeah. And the last couple of things I'll say is that the Chapin family established Ethan's Smile Foundation, a nonprofit organization to carry forward Ethan's legacy. It provides scholarships to students, enabling them to follow their dreams. And Maddie Mogan's family and friends run the Made with Kindness Foundation, which is a nonprofit in honor of Maddie, Kaylee, and Xana. And their mission is to provide scholarship funds, grief wellness seminars, and on-campus safety awareness in partnership with universities.
Nice.
That's nice.
I do, despite horrific events occurring, it does fill me with some joy that families and friends do create these other support groups and systems and like ways to give back to other people who may undergo something similar.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it is really nice. And in the documentary that I watched, you do hear from Ethan's family and Maddie's mom and stepdad. You don't hear anything from Xana's family or Kaylee's family, which is totally fair, but it was interesting to kind of hear them relive this and talk about it and what they've done with this and how they want to keep living their life and stuff. And you hear from a lot of the friends who were there, and like it was just like this horrific thing that really just upset this really tight-knit community.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's only 4 episodes. They're like 45 minutes each. It was really well done. You can also just read the affidavit that they used to get a warrant to search Brian's house or arrest him. They pretty much cover the same topics. You just don't hear from the victims' families.
Wow. That's fascinating too. Thank you for sharing. It's really neat with that link you sent that it'll be on the our sources. Just I think it's like a Freedom of Information Act request that they put out all that information. So like the photos and then other court documents seem to be in there, which I feel like you don't often see, or if you do, a lot of, from my experience, court documents in the States, at least, they're like paywalled. You can't access them without paying for them.
Yeah, it was really interesting because this was kind of the first case that didn't happen in Canada that you could just access court documents.
Yeah,
like
see everything.
You just Google it and everything has it, and you're like, oh, okay, amazing. Because instead of a bunch of newspapers coming up talking about it, you're like, oh, here's like the state of Idaho police documents.
Yeah, and the evidence found and their examinations and stuff.
Which was really nice.
Cool. So I don't really have any forensic stuff for you right now, but I was just recently visiting my uncle down in the States, and there's a little city there called Ybor City, I want to say, and they just have chickens that run around, and they're protected by the city, and a whole bunch of roosters. And so they're chickens and roosters that descendants of those that came in with, I believe it's Spanish, Cuban, and Italian immigrants back in the 1800s that came to work in the cigar factories. So
I love that.
You're just having a coffee out back at a cafe, and chickens come up to you and walking around, and they're protected.
That sounds awful. That sounds terrible.
I thought it sounded fun.
No, we used to have free-range chickens in our yards, and I've stepped in chicken poop barefoot too many times to enjoy the idea of a free-range chicken.
Yeah, they're just there, and there's a lot of them. Like there was like a little square in front of us that we went, and my uncle, we got iced coffee, so he just kind of like tossed the ice on the ground. But I guess it must be because people feed all of the chickens, but I've never seen so many chickens swarm that fast. They were coming out of literally the woodwork all around us, and then they realized that it was just ice and they had nothing to eat, so you could tell they were getting kind of like pissed off, so they started like surrounding us, and that was our cue to leave. We said, okay, we're gonna go home, get in the car.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so if you ever want to see free-range chickens, Ybor City in Florida.
That's wild. Who knew?
I know. Fun fact of the day. But so thank you again, Journey, for sharing that. A lot of information that I didn't know. Like, I was familiar kind of with the concept of it. I didn't know that they had charged and arrested and sentenced someone for the crime, so that was interesting to hear about. But our next topic, we're going to be talking about Bruce McArthur, making our way back into Canada for this one. And as always, you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok at What the Forensics. Our website is whattheforensics.ca, so all of the sources and what we were kind of hinting at or discussing today in the episode, you can also find that there if you want to kind of follow along with us. And our email is whattheforensics@gmail.com if you ever want to get a hold of us. But all that being said, this has been another episode of What the Forensics, our second of 2026. And we're really looking forward to another great year this year. We hope you learned something new this time, and we're excited to see you next.
Bye! Just a reminder to everyone that we are not professionals in the forensic science field. We are just interested in forensics and want to share what we are learning with our listeners. We're trying to give you the most accurate information, but we are human and can make mistakes. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope to see you next week.